Thank you, Joel. Thank you very much. Did you hear that? Sounded like a tree falling in the forest. So once again, welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Springs. The whole intention of having the practitioner moment was that they were to, really get it set up so that you would already be ready. And then he gives me the question, like, what's the meaning of life? Okay. So I'm going to think about that for a minute, so I can be sure that the answer that I'm going to give you is something that absolutely satisfies and fulfills and inspires your life, so that as you move out of this sanctuary today, you move into a place of greater wisdom and greater truth and greater understanding. But before I get there, there's a few things that I need to get out of the way, because they've been, filling my mind. And the first thing I want to say is, what about those 49ers? Wow! Yeah. That was a game, I tell you. I enjoyed that one. Okay, so we got that one out of the way. That's good. Got to get that cleared. There's a few things that one needs to do in order to get ready as they're going to speak, and so I've been doing a lot of reading this week, and I just want to make mention again about Dr. Maxine Kay, who's going to be our guest speaker next week, and she's going to do a workshop following the service. And if you want to participate in that workshop, we need you to sign up, because I'm going to provide some snack foods kind of things for those that stick around, and I need to know how much to do. But she has her new book out, Alive and Ageless. So this is available in our bookstore if you want to pick that up. And the other thing that I want to mention, and I talked about this already a little bit, was the Season for Nonviolence, which is a period of time that basically anchors the anniversaries of the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. And so we take this time in this period of the year in order to reflect upon the truth and the wisdom and the peace that they were bringing forth. And as I said, the book that I'm going to be using is from the Dalai Lama, Ethics for the New Millennium. But I want to take a moment just to acknowledge this individual that we're going to honor during this Season for Nonviolence, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man who truly and absolutely had a dream about creating a world that works for everyone, about bringing forth some essence of humanity that would allow us to walk upon this earth in a way that we could be loving and tolerant and compassionate, that we could identify and recognize our differences and yet still come together in that consciousness of unity, that we are all one, that we are the presence of the divine, and that it does not really matter how we get there, by which theology or dogma or teaching or culture or upbringing, but there is a place, and it begins from within, that says that we are all one. And if we can all open up to that place and understand that we no longer have to do this out of competition and war, that we can do this in cooperation and nurturance, that we can bring about a world that works for everyone, where we can join together, that we can be hand in hand, arm in arm, and we can bring forth the peace and the truth and the love that we all desire. So I just take this moment to recognize particularly these individuals, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi. Truly individuals within the contemporary time that we know it, that from deep within had a calling and a truth and a wisdom that said, there's a greater way. That if we can just allow ourselves to come into that place of stillness and quietness long enough to hear the voice of God, then we'll be in more gratitude, we'll be in more forgiveness, we'll be in more joy. And so we bless these individuals because in their life they brought us an experience and they have shown us a way. And we can begin to live that life right here today in this moment. And we can call it good and very good. And we can be the examples in our life, in our experience, in this very moment, in this very day, about bringing forth the good. And so knowing that that is the potential and the possibility of who we are, then we can affirm this as we say together, and so it is. So when I began to read this section of the Science of Mind textbook that we're covering today, one of the things that jumped out for me is in the beginning, Ernest Holmes says that there's a question that humanity has been asking since time immortal. Where do we get this intuitive thought? Where do we get this understanding? Where do we get this idea that we are alive, that we are living in existence, and that somehow we matter, and that somehow we have some purpose? Or simply said, because Laz says I'm going to make it simple for you here, the question is, what are we doing here, and why are we here, and who are we? And where does this all come from anywhere? So he begins to go through his writings in the Science of Mind textbook and talks about this idea that first of all we must recognize that there is a truth, that there is an intelligence, that there is a higher power, that there is a God, however you want to call it. And he says, when you get into this, it doesn't matter whether you call it him or it or God or mother, father, God, or however it is that you want to phrase it. If it's working for you, if you've got an understanding of what that is, then that's the important part of it. But putting a label on it, first of all, begins to limit it. And we know that this which is infinite and eternal cannot be limited. So begin to put a label on it, you already have boxed it into something that it's greater than that. But it is an intelligence, it is a knowing that out of itself, because it is invisible in and of itself, but it is the first cause of everything. And from itself and from the invisible, it has moved through the law, what we call the universal law, the law of mind, that is that creative process that initiates, implements, and animates into the experience that we know as the physical world. So everything in the physical world is something that has come out of what was the invisible. And everything that is in the physical world must then be of the essence and of the nature of that which is eternal, infinite, and absolute. And that's where we get to this point where we say that we are all one, that it is all God, and that each and every one of us is an individualized aspect of that divine. And if that is true, if we believe that, if we accept this notion that we are an individualized aspect of the divine, then we too must have within our nature that ability to